proactive. Now it's time to think about, what does that truly look like, Dr. G? Right? What type of work can we do? What kind of impact can we have? Can we truly put a dent in mass incarceration? Let's use a real case study, the Kalief Browder story. The story of Kalief Browder, a case study in a rigged system. Now, oh, yeah, it's showing up there. It's not showing on my screen. Okay, cool. Kalief Browder, a 16-year-old, remember yesterday we talked about his prefrontal cortex is underdeveloped like all children who are under the age of 25, and even though they think they're grown at that time, your brain's still growing, right? Oh, and shout out to my Gen Z sweetheart right here in the front row who has been helping me with all these amazing videos that you see me on here. She directs me, she make sure she cuts action, everything. Shout out to Christian, bro, I appreciate it. None of this would be possible without her. And so anyway, back to Kalief Browder. Remember, his prefrontal cortex is underdeveloped. He was born into the system. He had no idea that he was even born into the system until he was 12 or 13 years old. He got in trouble after his father left them. He was made a felon at the age of, I want to say 12 or I think it was 13. Yeah, no, it was 13 years old, and he was made a felon for stealing a bread truck. Don't get to make mistakes when you are a young black man growing up right in the hood. And he was born and raised in the Bronx. It was the epicenter of poverty in New York City. It's one of the poorest congressional districts in the nation, right? Failing school, so we know he wasn't taught criminal justice literacy, financial literacy, or civics, which are the big three that lead directly to mass incarceration. He's alleged to have stolen a backpack. Okay, just a backpack. And he was stopped and frisked and taken to the police station. He had no lawyer. There was a reliable witness. And it was a very suggestive lineup that was done. He spent 1,000 days in prison without a hearing. And for some reason, that picture of him won't show up on here. But he had over 30 court dates. And the reasons to continue the case, y'all ready? The DA was in another trial. The DA was on vacation. The DA's not ready for trial. The DA didn't have a witness. Excuses, right? And if you're Greek in any way, then we say excuses are tools of the incompetent used to build monuments of nothingness, and those who often use them seldom amount to anything. But they gave a lot of excuses in court, and it was acceptable to the judge clearly. And so the case ended up ultimately being dismissed. And the lawyer said that all the state had to do was bring forward one victim. That's it. So this is where a private investigator could come in really handy, right? For the defense, and a lawyer or community that was willing to fight and stand up. We have to push back on the state nonstop. A simple subpoena with a body attachment could have helped in this case, right? So I want y'all to think of the trauma after 1,000 days in prison. 14 months in a row of solitary confinement. He recounted that he used to like to go to parties, and he came home and he doesn't think he can make it like them. He would see people in suits and say, I want to be like them. I want to be successful. But after that traumatic experience, he didn't feel he could be successful anymore. He felt like a lot of demons were walking with him from what he saw and had been through in those 1,000 days. He couldn't sleep at night. He constantly thought about it. It stressed him out. His mother said he would punch the wall to release anger. He said, I'm not the same anymore. I'm happy I'm home, but should I really be happy because I shouldn't have been there? It's crazy because I don't fit in anymore. Before, I fit in. Kalief Browder had no one to help. Not the legal aid, not a lawyer, not his mother, not the 5 siblings, nobody. But he was truly principled. And he stood on business as a young man. He already had something on his record, y'all. Y'all peep that? He was made a felon. He already had something on his record. He could have got out faster by pleading. Remember the 97%? He refused. He had what I've heard described as testicular fortitude that many don't have when it comes to this criminal justice system. So now you understand why 97% of people take pleas, right? And how many of us could withstand 1,000 days in Rikers Island. The Kalief Browder story isn't just a tragedy, it's an indictment of a system that operates unchecked. But here's the hardest truth. It didn't have to end this way. If there had been a proactive justice ministry in place, one committed to intervening before convictions happened, Khalif's story could have been rewritten. The role of the church is not just to pray for those behind bars or to reform them once they get out, but to prevent them from getting there. So what does a proactive justice ministry actually do? It shows to the world what is being done to Black people. The purpose of a proactive justice ministry is the heart of why the church was the center for the Black liberation movement. Mamie Till spoke about hearing the issues in the South and thinking that it had nothing to do with her. Right? She said, I heard about the grievances in the South. We heard about it. When she sent her son down to the South, he came back unrecognizable and unalived. She had an open casket funeral so everyone could see what was being done to Black people and made the statement that what happens to any of us anywhere in the world had better be the business of all of us. Our job is to organize and use our collective power to police the system that oversees us. The church is the one place that Black Americans, the disproportionately affected, the marginalized minority, the least of us, should feel and be safe. Utilizing the principles of Jesus, the ultimate disruptor, and standing for justice, which includes the rights of the disproportionately affected, not being dismissed as a mere technicality. Most families don't know how to navigate the system. The church can help vastly. They know we are undereducated in the big three that I just spoke about: criminal justice literacy, financial literacy, and civics. They're the big three leading directly to mass incarceration because you don't teach me criminal justice literacy, but you tell me ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking the law, but you never taught me the law. I live in poverty and you never teach me financial literacy. You resolve me to only making the bare minimum, right? And then you don't teach me civics because you don't want me to actually be able to know how this system works. Correct? Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. MLK said, the practical cost of change for the nation up to this point has been cheap. The limited reforms have been obtained at bargain rates. There are no expenses and no taxes are required for the Negroes to share lunch counters, libraries, parks, hotels, and other facilities with whites. The real cost lies ahead. The stiffening of white resistance is recognition of that fact. The discount education given Negroes will in the future have to be purchased at full price if quality education is to be realized. Khalif's mother didn't have the resources or legal knowledge to fight for him. His appointed attorney didn't do enough, like most underpaid, overworked attorneys in the system. A justice ministry can connect families to better legal representation, fund private investigators to challenge unreliable witnesses and evidence, educate members on how to advocate for loved ones caught in the system. What if Khalif had a lawyer and advocates who fought aggressively instead of accepting delay after delay after delay? What if his family had someone guiding them through that process? Another proactive benefit is that churches provide protection for people fighting cases. Now, why this matters: when someone is facing charges, they often fight alone without support, resources, or guidance. The system banks on them taking a plea deal instead of fighting back. What did we just review? 97% of people are charged with a crime. They take a plea deal instead of going to trial, right? Many people feel pressured to take a plea deal simply because they just don't have the resources to fight back. This is where churches can be a shield of protection, ensuring people aren't railroaded by a system designed to convict and not seek justice. Now, how our churches can take action: we can help find quality defense attorneys. We can monitor defense attorneys to ensure they're doing their jobs, challenging biased rulings, filing motions, and actually defending their clients. We can support families of those fighting cases, help with childcare, transportation, and emotional support so they can focus on their defense, right? We can encourage defendants to exercise their full rights. When people know they have support, they are less likely to be bullied into taking a plea deal. And when churches stand in the gap, people feel empowered to fight back. The system counts on them being isolated, and it's time for us to change that. Now, court watching. Holding the legal system accountable is one of the best ways that a justice ministry can be involved. Let's be clear, courtrooms operate differently when the community is watching. I want y'all to be clear about that. They operate differently. Now, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, they make decisions every day that impact people's freedoms, but those decisions often go unchecked. When you sit in the courtroom silent and observant, you shift the power dynamic. You let them know we see you, we hear you, and we're holding you accountable. But court watching is not just about presence, it's about exposing injustices and ensuring that those in power cannot operate in darkness. So why do we court watch? It's a nonviolent, silent, yet powerful method of oversight. There are no chants, there are no signs, there is no arguing, there is just observation and accountability. And we have a legal right to be present in courtrooms. And it comes from this case. U.S. Supreme Court in Waller v. Georgia, 1984, ruled that the public has a right to attend and observe criminal proceedings. All right? And that's Waller v. Georgia, Waller v. Georgia. Tennessee law also upholds this right if you're in Tennessee in State v. Drake. Our mere presence is enough to shift behavior and expose disparities. We report back what they do to Black and brown people when no one is watching. We track how the community is being treated and whether those elected officials are upholding their promises, right? If Kalief Browder had a courtroom full of eyes on every court date, would the DA have been able to delay that case for 3 years without anybody getting mad about it? What to watch for? So what are we watching for? We're looking for systemic racism in courtroom decisions. We're looking for these prosecutorial tactics. Do DAs overcharge cases to pressure plea deals? Do they push for excessive bail? Are they following through on their campaign promises of reform that they came to our churches and, was all up in there, standing up, waving around, trying to give up? What they do? Okay, we know, right? Judicial behavior. Do the judges consistently favor the prosecution? We're looking at this. Are they fair, right, and just? Are they dismissive and harsh? Are they violating probation for minor infractions? That don't sound right. Because a lot of times you'll think this stuff is normal. I know when I haven't been practicing now, I only take maybe 1 or 2 cases, but I'll go in there and I'll sit down and be like, what's happening? I used to be desensitized as well. When you're in there every day, you start to think this is normal. You start to be like, oh, it's just another day. But now I go in, I'm like, I'm screaming at like, Courtney, calm down. No, I can't. It's wrong. And somebody has to say something. Now, the defense attorney, you're looking at them. Are they prepared? Are they just pushing pleas? Do they fight for alternative sentencing? Or are they community resources? Are they being innovative? Do they truly advocate or they just move cases along? These are the things we're looking for. 30 court dates and no one was concerned. Now, Kalief Browder's case dragged on for over 1,000 days because no one was watching. Over 30 court dates delayed for absurd reasons. DAs claimed they weren't ready, but no one challenged them. His defense lawyer failed him, yet no one held them accountable. If a justice ministry had been present, they could have exposed the delays and excuses. They could have demanded movement from the DA in court, and they could have pressured his lawyer, court-appointed public defender, whoever, to actually fight that case. The system operates best when no one is looking, so if churches and community members had been in Kalief's courtroom, his case may not have ended in tragedy. And I want to give this call to you all so you hear it. Mass incarceration thrives in darkness. Court watching is one way to shine a light. That darkness Could be a bunch of lawyers in that courtroom who are desensitized and don't see anything wrong with what's going on. But when you're there, you've been trained on what to look for. You get to report back to the community exactly what's going on. Now, who in your community is sitting in the courtroom today alone with no one watching? How many Khalifs will we lose before we finally decide to act? It's a great time for the church to step up, not just in prison ministry, but in courtroom ministry, right? It's time to be present, be watchful, and be loud in silence. And one other area to consider is the bail support and community reinforcement. Pretrial detention is the first trap, and churches can help break that. Khalif spent 3 years in jail without trial because he couldn't afford bail, and then because he had a violation of his probation bond. This had a violation of probation that caused a hold on him. They would not let him get out, okay? This happens to thousands of people daily, legally innocent people sitting behind bars just because they're poor. And poor, what did we talk about yesterday? Black Americans make $15 for every $100 that a white person makes. So when I say poor, I'm not just talking about some people maybe over here that you think, live in the projects and maybe need it. It's all of us. We're all a paycheck away. So if you can scrape up some money and hire one lawyer and they don't do right by you, then guess what? You've been disarmed. Okay? So a justice ministry can raise bail funds for nonviolent offenders. They can challenge excessive bail amounts in courts. They can assist with housing and support for those released pretrial so they don't end up back in the system. Address their lawyers for failing to take quick action to assist, such as filing motions, requesting bonds, and reductions. What if Khalif had been released on bail and support instead of sitting in jail for 1,000 days? The next thing churches can do is legal literacy, teaching criminal justice literacy in our churches. What did I tell you? The big three that we are under-educated in? Criminal justice literacy, financial literacy, civics. These three lead directly to mass incarceration. It doesn't just happen in courtrooms, y'all. It begins long before someone ever stands before a judge. Most wrongful convictions and excessive charges happen because people don't know their rights when dealing with police and prosecutors. If we truly want to fight back proactively, we have to equip our communities with criminal justice literacy. Legal knowledge is power, and it's power that our people have been systematically denied. Let's break this down. Why it matters. The criminal justice system relies on ignorance. Police trick and manipulate people into waiving their rights. Prosecutors exploit the confusion to push plea deals that don't serve justice, right? Then the lawyers are often overworked and don't educate their clients, even though they're supposed to be defending them, right? So what Kalief Browder, they're supposed to be, but the Kalief Browder should have known this had he been taught criminal justice literacy. He should never talk to the police alone. He should have immediately asked for a lawyer and remained silent. Police can lie. Remember yesterday how we talked about that? We looked at that. The unreliable witness and suggestive lineup should have been challenged. Delays are a tactic. A justice ministry could have taught his family how to demand action in court and utilize their power to do it as well. Imagine if Khalif had been taught his rights at church. Imagine if his community knew how to advocate for him. His story could have been different. So how your church can take action is host Know Your Rights workshops. Teach members how to assert their rights during police encounters. Come on, Ms. Clemmy, invite attorneys or legal advocates to educate the congregation. Make Know Your Rights education as common as Sunday school. Okay? Use real world scenarios. You can role play traffic stops, police questioning and courtroom interactions, right? Equipping people with the exact words to say, I invoke my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer. And this just brought a thought up in my mind. Growing up in the church, I put on plays all the time, right? I think about how fun that could be, right? Even having a role play time with children so they can be able to learn exactly what to do when they're in this. Train them on how to record police interactions legally and safely. And finally, start young. Teach the children. Parents must prepare their children for the reality of being over-policed. So Sunday school, youth groups, mentoring programs should incorporate criminal justice literacy. A child who knows their rights at age 12 is a child who won't be tricked into self-incrimination at age 16, right? And pushed into this system while their brain is still underdeveloped and they're just being a kid. The church as a center for justice education. The same way churches teach scripture and faith, they must teach how to survive a system designed to destroy us. And I know many of you may immediately go in your mind to wanting to assist through mentorship and psychological support because Khalif left Rikers traumatized, a shadow of who he once was. He had no mentors, he had no mental health, he had no one helping him reintegrate, nobody. And the Justice Ministry could provide mentorship programs for at-risk youth and returning citizens. They could offer mental health resources for those affected by incarceration. They could create safe spaces where people can process their experiences and heal. And so you may find yourself thinking, if Khalif had a community committed to helping him process his trauma, well, would he still be alive today? And I want you to consider that as well-meaning as this is, we have a great abundance of nonprofits, churches, and organizations focusing reactively. And I want you to flip it and create the same thing, but proactively, right? Now think of this, where instead of waiting until they are returning citizens, you use this same method to create pre-trial options. Hear what I'm saying here. Someone may be someone who is pending a case like Kalief Browder was, right? They're waiting on their own trial and they may be released into your program at the church, right? They may be diverted from this criminal, this crime that they're being charged, and they can be diverted from the justice system into your program. It's plenty of them. People have them all the time. A lot of times they just send them to the programs with people who created them that look like them. Right? Okay. So if our churches are creating these and the people who are coming for our vote are coming, they come and they want to speak at my church, and I have a program that helps end mass incarceration, and that program is going to get funded. That program is going to get utilized because you need me. You need us, right? And so offering creative solutions to incarceration is truly an underutilized resource in our communities. You have singers and a music ministry. Maybe a justice-involved person could do community service with that ministry, right? Or say, for instance, maybe they could work with your justice ministry and help hold the police accountable for their wrongdoings. Or maybe they could learn a skill, a trade. Could they shadow a business owner? Anything that assists them in handling the very issues that led them to this system, that lack of education and financial literacy, criminal justice literacy, civics, having a lack of resources.